All right, everybody, welcome back to the Kleen-Rite Radio podcast. Again, I'm sitting here with my good buddy, Marc Tyndale. I am Fix It with Phil, and we are going to jump into build, buy, rebuild today. We're talking all about acquiring a site. If you're new, want to get a new site, add another site to your repertoire, whatever that looks like, we're going to dive into the different aspects of what to consider when building, buying, or remodeling.
Whether you're new to industry or an existing operator, this is going to be a great session.
Yeah, we're gonna cover a lot. We're gonna talk about some things you might not have thought about, or some aspects that kind of escape everybody's mind when they're trying to dive into this.
Yeah, sometimes when you have an opportunity come in front of you and you really want something, sometimes you skip the steps that you probably should take. So let's dive right into, should I build a car wash today,
and
2025?
I know that you have a lot of experience helping people building your own car washes. I don't really have a ton of experience with, looking at land and, understanding what I need to have or what's going to have to happen. So I'm really going to let you run with this one. Tell me, what does it really look like to build?
Yeah, let's talk about the complexity of building anything, whether it's a car wash or a house or another building. So it is complex, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of capital to actually build, let's say, a car wash. You start out with land development, which can take a year, sometimes two years, sometimes in some areas.
Yeah.
And then once you get through land development, then you have to get through permitting, which is your structure and your mechanicals. And I'm assuming you've already gone through architectural with your architect for design. So now we're 2 years in. Mm-hmm. And in today's market, personally, I do not think, and the term for this is greenfield. I do not think this is a good market for greenfield in the in-bay self-serve arena. I think it's still, you're going to see a lot of greenfields in Express Tunnel because that's part of their model with the bonus depreciation that they get from doing that. But for a mom and pop or a small local chain, building is probably not the best opportunity unless you absolutely want to build and you know what you're doing and you have built before.
So I hear what you're saying, and I am the guy that says, nope, I want it all brand new.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
I'm looking for land.
Okay.
What am I looking for?
So, when you're looking for a retail spot, you're looking for traffic count. For an in-bay self-serve car wash, you want something in the above 10,000 cars a day. Today, to find that land in the Northeast anyway, or the Mid-Atlantic, I mean, you're starting at 500,000 for less than an acre, upwards to $1 million just for the land. So that's just the land, and you haven't improved it at all. There are opportunities sometimes to tear something down, which
something to think about.
Something can help if it was you're just repurposing a site, and starting from scratch. That can help, right? So the land development process is you're dealing sometimes with more than one government entity. You're dealing with the township, the state, the road department, the sewer authority. Sometimes you're dealing with community improvement boards where they have to approve the aesthetics. So it can get very expensive very quick.
Right.
And you have to be able to forecast what you're going to spend on that. So we just talked about the land.
Yeah.
So let's say, Phil, you want to build a car wash, and I was walking you through just a 10,000-foot view of what it's going to cost you. Mm-hmm. Very quickly, you would get a gauge of whether you'd want to do that or not, right? So the way I'd take you through that process is you came to me, you've already identified a piece of land. That land is, let's say, an acre and a half at $750,000, which would not surprise me today. And in most small to medium towns
Yeah.
in the United States anywhere.
Especially with 10,000 car count driving by.
Yeah, and
It's a prime piece of land.
if it's 15, 20,000 cars, even better. Somebody like myself, I'd look at your ingress and egress. Look at make sure you're not on an alley or a side road. You have good visibility, and it's mostly rectangular.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people come to me in the past where they want to put a car wash on a triangle, and it just does not work.
Yeah, not a great shape for traffic flow.
Well, it's not only that; is a lot of times you can't. Let's say you want to do a 3 and 2, which is pretty popular if you're building a new one today, or a 4 and 2. If it's an acre triangle, by the time you get the 50-foot setback from the road, and then 25 foot on the sides, and then 15 foot in the back, it squeezes that triangle to something that you cannot fit the building on physically.
Right.
And then you start making concessions. And I always used to tell people, if you have to make a multitude of concessions, maybe this is not the best spot for you. Move on, get another spot. And sometimes that's hard for people to move on because they've really been thinking about this spot for a long time. Mm-hmm. So Phil, I've told you that the ins and outs of your triangular lot.
Yeah.
Right. So now now you find a rectangular lot, good road. You have a very nice 25-foot access, and then a 25-foot exit, maybe 50-foot. That'd be great. It's not a right in, right out, which I don't love, on a divided highway, even though it works in some places, like New Jersey. You have to have right in, right out, so you don't have a choice. But so you acquire this land. It's $750,000. Now what? Okay, so now you start calling your distributors and getting prices on equipment. Today, it may shock people. It may not shock people, but for 2 in-bays and a 4-bay, nice package, 4-bay self-serve with vacuums, floor heat if you need it, space heat if you need it, your boilers, your air compressors, you're probably in the $1 million to $1.4 million range, whether it's a tunnel or an in-bay self-serve.
Is that installed, or is that just the
usually
equipment alone?
That's usually installed with tax and freight. So now it was at 2.1,
2.3.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we're getting up there.
Now we need a building.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just scratching the surface.
Yep. And then you get the letter from the power company that says oh, by the way, we don't have 3-phase exactly where you are. We need to bring in another 100 feet. Mm-hmm. When I first started, that was free to get the electric to you. Now it's $100,000 to get that 3-phase pole and that transformer installed. And you're like, okay, I can eat that. What's the next thing? What else is going to happen to me? Because you really don't know,
right? Until
you can't predict all of what the utilities or the towns are going to put on you. Mm-hmm. So that makes it pretty difficult. So now we're, that's probably about a 3,800 square foot building. You want to build it out of block. You probably want to put a nice, wall liner on it, have a decent roof. We're not going crazy here, and you're probably in the 150 to 250 range, depending on where you are, for square foot of
just for the building.
So now we're another $1 million. So you very quickly are at $3.2 million for that car wash. Now on a 25,000 car road, I would say possibly do it. Because that's a car wash I look at that would do 600, 700, 800,000 gross. But if you're looking at a $3 million investment and your pro forma says that you're going to do 250,000. Well, that doesn't pencil. That's 11, 12, 15-year payback. It's just not looking that great. So I think the operators that are well branded and well capitalized, they have multiple sites. Their debt ratio is lower. It's a good move for them because they can capture equipment and building depreciation. It's a good business move, and that site's going to be there for a long time. If they're a build and hold style company, I think it's smart to do greenfield.
Okay.
And it's worked for me, but I've done it both ways. I've bought, tore down, and built. I've built from scratch, and I've bought and I've remodeled.
Right.
And I think that kind of takes us into the next phase.
Well, before we
Go
get
ahead.
into the next phase, I have some questions here.
I love it. I love questions.
So, I'm a new guy. I want to do greenfield. I find a piece of land. Is my first move to buy this land, or is my first move to can I project out and go to the township and find out all these contingent things before I purchase the land, or do you kind of have to risk it for the biscuit and buy the land and then find out what the township's going to make you
Most folks do not just buy the land,
Okay.
Unless they know with confidence that they could use that land for something else. Because when you buy land, there's no guarantee that you're going to get approved. So even if it's a approval by right, you still might have to jump through a lot of hoops. I tell people, unless you're a major developer and there are variances required,
Right.
walk, because variances are, you have to show need. And if you and I've been in a lot of township meetings, and if somebody doesn't want it, the first thing they have to say is, "Well, why do we need this?" And you don't really need a car wash, and you can
What?
Yeah, and you can have every expert that come into a township meeting and say, "Well, we need this for the community," and it really does not meet the muster for what their requirement is for a variance.
Yeah.
And you could have spent already, $10,000 on just sketch plans and $5,000 on your civil engineer, and you're done. At that point, and
Money wasted.
Money wasted. So what most people do is they'll do a purchase agreement, and the seller will give them, sometimes it's negotiable, but the minimum would be 90 days due diligence. So you're gonna have to burn some cash to do that due diligence,
homework.
and
Yeah.
that you don't get that back. I mean, that is, your homework's going to cost you money on that due diligence. So, and it takes a lot of professionals to get that due diligence done. You need a civil engineer. I don't think you need an architect just yet, because you might
Not really building a building.
Well, sometimes they want to see what it's going to look like, but you can show them pictures of some other ones that can get you to the next level.
Okay.
But yeah, so
Who would have thought it would take that much? Just to
most people do not appreciate how much it would take to do that,
Yeah.
because it just gets done all the time, and they see buildings go up, and Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, new gas stations, they have whole teams behind them, and it takes years sometimes to get even a shovel in the ground.
Right.
Building it is the easiest part once you have all the approvals.
Right. Yeah.
Typically.
And that makes complete sense, right? I mean, you can see a building go up anymore in months, weeks sometimes, but you never really think about, 2 years ago I found this piece of land, and then for 2 years I've been spending money trying to get to this point of putting the shovel in the ground.
Yeah, and there's so many people required to make this happen. I mean, as a car wash distributor or a car wash professional, all you can do is point your customers to the civil engineer and the mechanical engineer and the electrician and the plumber and the excavator. I mean, all you know how to do is sell equipment, right?
Yeah.
And we know how to make them successful. With we work more on, hey, you want your turn radiuses to look like this. We want your bay. If you're building new, you don't want to skimp on bay width or bay height. You want to have
Right.
good lighting. That's the kind of stuff that we can really help them with. But we need a whole team behind us who are the design professionals to take care of the rest.
All right, Mark, I got one more, and it's, we briefly talked about utilities, but can you just shine a little bit more light on that?
On what you need.
Yeah,
so
what
all
you
the
need.
things. Okay, so you're going to need 3-phase electrical, right?
Yeah.
depending on the size of the car wash, it's going to vary the size of the service you need. 400, 600, depending. A larger car wash, maybe 800 amps.
Okay.
Water, obviously. You need water to wash a car. Okay, no doubt there. You're going to create your own air, so that's not really a utility. Gas, natural gas is probably the most prominent. If you don't have natural gas, you can use propane in a car wash to run the boilers.
Okay.
Sewer, you're going to need sewage. If you don't have sewage, that's a pretty big problem.
Put you right into like a reclaim unit.
Yeah, typically you need reclaim whether you have sewer or not. So even if you have sewer, a lot of townships, as a default, will require you to save some water.
Okay.
Right. And then what I forget? So we got gas, water, sewer, electric. Oh, internet. You have to have internet.
Yeah, right. How are we going to take those card swipes?
You cannot function without internet in today's car washes, and it's a requirement.
Yeah.
So and that's something that people check in their due diligence. Do I have to use X, Y, or Z company? There are some satellite-based services that you can use, but and then the one thing that I know in the past couple of years we've added is backup internet, because it is the lifeblood of your car wash credit. Mm-hmm. So when we put hardwired internet or fiber into one of our car washes, we still have a cellular backup that we can use, because when the credit cards go down, it's worse than anything in the world. Mm-hmm. And you know this as well.
I do. I've experienced it.
Yeah. So
it sounds like, to be honest, to build, this is like a gargantuan undertaking of something to do.
Is.
Right now is a really good time to buy
a car wash,
right? One that's already there.
Yep.
One that maybe you want to look to tear down.
Yep.
Or maybe one that, maybe is in good enough shape, or is, fairly new that you could run for a bit before you needed to do a remodel.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So I have assessed them before, where we looked at the shell and we're like, this is a perfect remodel. And I've actually purchased at least one where I could make better use of the bays and the stacking by tearing it down. I skipped, if we rewind all the way back to the beginning, I skipped all the land development because I only added maybe 15 or 20% to the building. I raised it so I had nice ceilings. I actually made the equipment room wider. I tore it down. I dug new footings. I put new tanks and floors in and everything. But all I had to do was get a building permit. I did not have to go through that whole first stage. So sometimes if something is 35, 45 years old, sometimes it's okay to tear it down.
Yeah.
Because to try to retrofit if your bays are really low, really narrow, the equipment room's only 8 foot wide, maybe it pays to take a self-serve bay out, have a nice wide equipment room where you can fit all that new modern equipment into it. And so that's really, every situation is going to be a little different.
But you're cutting a lot of the headache out and a lot of the what ifs out if you can find a lot that's already built and then,
it was already a car wash. It's already an approved use. They probably had some level of success at some time, and maybe the owner let it go, or for whatever reason, it's probably a very viable business move to take that and either remodel it or tear it down and build it the way that you want it. Yeah. I mean, that to me is the sweet spot.
So we're still looking at car count. We're still looking at, car count, egress, all those types of things when we're looking at a site that's already built. We're still looking at the same things we would look at if we were going greenfield, but we're actually then tacking on to that, looking at the building and seeing how viable it is. What am I going to have to do to it?
Yeah, and sometimes you can modify those things a little bit to make it easier for your flow or how you want to do things. I mean, a lot of the old car washes that people would buy maybe were self-serve only, and they want to add 10 to 15 foot to two of the end bays to get two end bays in.
Yeah.
And then they have to extend those entry and exit pads to get a little bit more heat. Sometimes, not sometimes, but most of the time, if you're looking at a 35 or 45-year-old car wash, the floors are probably past their usable life. Part of the game is to just start with a new floor heat system in the north.
Yeah.
In the south, you don't have to worry about that as much. So yeah, I think, in my opinion, and probably in your opinion too, that is what I said before, the sweet spot.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't let the biggest thing that I'm hearing you say is when you buy a lot, just because there is a building on it now does not mean you are pigeonholed to only using that building. No,
100%. And you're limited to what your expectations are going in.
Yeah.
Right. And so if the expectation is I want to get into the car wash business and I see a car wash that's for sale for $350,000, if you look at it like, oh, I can probably buy that and put $50,000 into it and it's 45 years old, you probably are setting yourself up for failure. Okay. When you buy a car wash for $350,000 or $150,000 and it's 45 years old, you almost need to look at everything you'd have to do, because whether you do it from day one or not, you're going to have to do it
at some point.
Right. It's better to do it up front. So especially the way construction loans and borrowing is today, most banks will give you a year of interest only. So if you're going to take a year of interest only, tear it down or remodel it the way that you'd want to remodel it, so that you can raise your game.
Yep.
Get what that retired car washer was doing, 3 exit, right, and do it right. And that we used to call that do it with a splash, right? Rather than just, another guy bought that car wash down the street and it changed a little bit
at a time.
You want to change it a lot.
Like a grand reopening, let everybody know, hey, I'm raising my
serious.
game. Yeah, I'm taking this very seriously, and I'm going to turn this into the best car wash in town.
Yeah, and small towns are even better, because the chatter about that is, wow, that guy really did it right.
Yep.
And it'll work.
So when you're going around, I'm buying a car wash that's already built. When you're going around and you're looking at these sites, who are the people who's the team that you need to assemble to take with you to these sites, right? We know, I know already a distributor is top on that list.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're going to be able to kind of give you a pro forma of what they believe it could do if you did X, Y, and Z, and give you kind of a cost analysis on that.
Yeah.
Who else? Is there anybody else that needs to be part of that team right out of the gate, do you think?
Sure. So your equipment supplier should be one, right? Your distributor equipment supplier. And two, you're going to need some type of a builder, whether it's a remodel builder or you're going to need a contractor.
Right.
And that contractor is going to have the electrician and the plumber. You're going to need those trades to get from point A to point Z. So by doing this, we skipped all the other design professionals, and now we're really just dealing with distributor builder, which is a much more... It's stressful for anyone.
Right.
I know you're going through a little bit of that right now. I just went through a little bit of that myself, and personally, and it's a stressful situation. There's always going to be stuff you do not know that you're going to have to pay for. And but you interview your distributors, you interview your builders, you get who you're comfortable with, and you may need a mechanical engineer, depending on the town, to submit, some sealed drawings for the mechanicals.
Okay.
That's pretty common anymore. They're going to be looking at anything from ADA compliance, which I don't know if you've run into that.
I have not.
I have. I have some meter boxes that are much lower. I have any new construction. You in Pennsylvania anyway. I can't speak for other areas, but in Pennsylvania you have to have at least one vacuum where all the highest point is 48 inches. And then you have to have a at least one bay where the highest reach point is 48 inches. You can get a variance from that, but sometimes you don't want to. I mean, you want to give access. So
yeah,
we
want everybody.
We
to
want
be
everybody
able
to be able to use them.
But that's a great point because honestly, I've never really considered that. It's not really a normal thought.
Yeah, doorways. They'll check your doorways. They'll check your means of exit from the equipment room, and sometimes, most of the time in a car wash, you will run into issues, and that's where I tell people, just go for the variance, because when it's a mechanic like yourself, the assumption is that you do not need access. So the ADA inspectors will allow that because it's maintenance. It's not the end user. It's not the customer using it. So you can put a control box that has a safety switch maybe up above your equipment, and they'll usually let that kind of stuff go because it's a mechanic. And then, I always would have customers call and say, they told me I need a bathroom. Well, you probably should want a bathroom if you're going to have an employee.
Yeah.
So, but what a lot of folks don't plan for is that space it takes to have a bathroom in their equipment room. So that takes up at least 64 square feet.
Yeah.
If you're putting in a proper bathroom with walls. If not, I mean, we have customers that have shower curtains and stuff like that, but not new construction. Or where they have to get a permit for a remodel. You're not going to get away with a shower curtain. So, great questions, though.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, a bathroom is an oversight, but an absolute need, right?
Yeah.
Long days at the car wash.
Yeah, unless you're right next to a McDonald's, you probably need a bathroom.
Yeah. So remodel. I bought my new site. I got a 35-year-old building there. It's a 6-bay, self-serve only. I want to go 2 and 4 or 2 and 3.
Yes.
Where are we at?
This is where you really need to talk to, unless you're an experienced operator already, this is where you need to talk to your distributor. Because when you pro forma out a 6-bay self-serve, it's going to do X. When you pro forma a 4 and 2, it's going to do a lot more, right? 2 bays of automatic are going to do the same as 4 or 5 bays of self-serve. Actually, double, because one automatic will do what 4 or 6 bays of self-serve will do. So what a good distributor will do is look at what you're paying for the land, what you're paying for the remodel, kind of back that into their pro forma, and show the higher sales from that extra automatic. We used to have that conversation all the time. I'm not sure I want to do the second one. Some sites you could say, yeah, put the bay in and maybe do it later. Other sites, we would say, you need to do that
right
now.
away.
You need to, and I don't want to pull my chain too much, but most of the time we were given pretty good advice because they needed that second automatic or third.
Right. And that just helps cover all the loans that you're taking, right? It gets you at that payback much faster. So, I'm taking all this money out. I'm going to wait to put that second one in, where really you should be considering, I need to put that second one in so I can pay this off faster.
Exactly. Yeah. And get that ROI. The ROI is going to be quicker with the in-bay automatics. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So would you say that in different regions it's better to look at having more IBAs on site, or is it just across the board in general? Like, you typically always want to have at least 2, or, we know that you should have at least 1, but most of the time you're looking at two or more. Is it really is that based on car count going by? Is that based on population? How do you really look at, figuring out how many in-bays to put on a lot?
A lot of times the customer who's looking to do this, if they're already an operator, makes it kind of easy. Okay. So if they have a site down the road and they just acquired another site from a guy who's exiting the industry, we'll ask them. We'll say, well, what's your car counts at your other site? And it's a fairly successful site. If he's saying he's doing 8,000 to 12,000 cars that second automatic is going to be really nice during the pollen season or the salt season. If he's saying he's doing 22,000 cars, we might recommend a second automatic or a third automatic,
right?
Because he's maxed out. His capacity is there, and we're not talking about tunnels today, but the volume you want your in-bays to be. You want that next in-bay to take half the volume off the first in-bay.
Okay.
So if somebody says, I think I can do, 45,000 cars here or 50,000 cars, you need 2 to 3 in-bays to do that. 2 are going to be working hard. 3 will,
catch the overflow.
Hey, that's why I have one with 4 in-bays.
Yeah.
Because if one breaks, I always have 3. Or if 2 breaks, I always have 2.
Yeah. And you got to make
They
hay
don't
when the
break
sun's shining, right? If there's pollen on cars, you got to catch them all when you can.
That's right. And it's amazing. I have a 1, a bunch of 2s. I don't have any 3s, and I have a 4. And when you look at a heavy day, it's not 1.25 of the other sites. The 4-bay is 4 times a 1-bay. A 2-bay is 2 times a 1-bay. So on busy days, you're always maxing them out, and that's a good gauge to go by.
Yeah.
We get 20, 30, 40 of those days now with pollen and salt and bugs in the south. So, sometimes you are trying to make that decision for your busy season. But 40 days of maxed out capacity,
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot to gain really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else do we need to consider when we're looking at a remodel? If the ceilings are high, the bays are wide enough, I'm not looking at a structure rebuild. I'm looking at, walls.
Pinch points.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at this car wash, let's say you're new to industry, because that is the most dangerous purchaser.
And that's a big thing right now. We got a lot of new to industry people wanting to get into car washing. They realize how good of a business it is,
And they don't necessarily know what they just bought. And that's probably one of the number one things we deal with. So the electric service, you have to look at what you're going to be putting in there, not what you already have. We have so many car washes that you and I talk to every day, and they have a 200 amp single phase panel, and they have a 6-bay self-serve, and they want to add an in-bay. Well, guess what? You need a 400 amp 3-phase service.
Yeah.
And you need to change it.
It's time to upgrade right away.
Yeah, so electric is big. We used to always help people air test if it was summer, we would air test their floor heat system, just to give them the peace of mind that it worked.
Make sure that it's holding pressure and that it's not going to leak out.
And it's a very floor heat is a very buyer beware, okay? Because the seller might be the most honest guy in the world, and in his mind it works just fine. But when the buyer comes in his first winter, he realizes he loses 15 gallons of glycol every day. Well, that's not just fine.
Yeah.
Right? There's a leak. So, which is fixable. If it's a newer system, you can find them, you can fix them. But if it's 45 years old, you probably need a new floor and you need new tubes and all that kind of stuff. So I would say electric is big. Water. If you look at the incoming water line size, standard is 2-inch water line. A lot of old, smaller self-serves might have a 1-inch, or they'll have 2 1-inches going into a meter to try to get capacity.
Okay.
But usually you can always get around the gas issue with some propane. Not a major showstopper there. But I would say the biggest things to look for are the measurements. That's what I always focused on the most. Once the mechanical was taken care of, if somebody had 10-foot high self-serve bays, well, you're not going to put an in-bay in there. If they're 25-foot long, you're not going to put an in-bay in there. If you're okay with that, that's fine. But the distributor will tell them those things to look for.
Right.
If the equipment room's only 8 foot wide and you want to buy this big, whatever, reclaim system or spot free or, add a tank, it needs to be bigger.
You need space for that.
Yeah. And sometimes you can go up, but it's not ideal.
And then when we started this conversation about that, you said pinch points. So we're talking about the measurements. And when I think of pinch points, being an outdoors guy, I'm thinking of the parking lot itself, right? The lot that it's
can
on.
Be a huge pinch point.
Do we have, it's all self-serve now. Do we have enough space for traffic flow to get people in and out of IBAs?
You've seen them. I think you might have bought one, but the self-serves where they're perpendicular to the road.
Yes.
And you have one car of space to get out of the exit and one car of space with stacking. The one you have is amazing because there's two automatics in it.
Yep.
But there are car washes, tons of them even around here that are perpendicular to the road. The bays are 18 foot long. There's only 25 foot on either side. You just have to know going in that car wash is never going to be more than what the dimensions
it can hold.
It has now, because there's no expansion capability. So I'm not saying that's still not a good buy. You can make it a great self-serve.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you can still move some traffic through there, but you have to consider those things when you're looking at a Performa and be honest with yourself and say, can I move the amount of cars through this lot that I can actually move through those machines?
And then there's the outliers, right? There's a few that I know off the top of my head that change hands every 4 or 5 years. Nothing ever really changes. I would, look at the transactional history, and if that car wash has changed hands 8 times, I'd be buyer beware.
Yeah.
There's something.
There's a red flag.
There's a red flag there.
Yeah.
And I don't think you would have 8 poor operators in a row. There's
You would hope
something.
not.
There's something structural, mechanical, or just a market-based, demographic-based. There's an issue with it, and maybe there's a higher, better purpose for that car wash, and it just needs to exit the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you had said about, the 45-year-old, 35-year-old lot that the owner maybe built and is now looking to retire, or, isn't willing to take that next step and say, I want to raise my game. I'm going to redo this site and make it what it should be. That's the guy I'm looking for. Right. Because he made it his professional business for
it was his baby.
Many years.
It was his baby, and he just wants to move on, and I don't blame him. He put his time in, and if you're 70 or 80, who wants to borrow money and do it again? It's time to enjoy life, right?
If you do, good on you.
Yeah.
Right? We love you for it.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you're not looking to do that and you have a young guy come to you and he's hungry and he wants to do this business as well, would you say that's a good time to sell?
Yeah. I mean, there's enough opportunity out there right now that you can get quick sales.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I just referred one yesterday. I don't know when this is airing, but the guy's probably listening, and he'll probably buy it.
Yeah.
He has a motivated seller and a motivated buyer, and the buyer knows what he's getting into because he's done it a couple times. And if they come to an agreement, the new buyer will probably improve the cosmetics greatly. He'll put credit cards in. He'll raise the prices. Actually, the lighting and the booms, and he needs probably new meter boxes. His back room's probably, I didn't see it, but it's probably original equipment.
A little rough.
So it probably will need some self-serve equipment, maybe a spot free. I don't think it's a small postage stamp. I don't think they'll ever have an in-bay, but it'll make a great 5-bay self-serve in a really busy area that's served the community for a long time.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, hearing that, it's, guys out there, if you're new and you're looking to get into it, take note to what we're saying, right? Look for that site that might look a little bit older. And if there's an older gentleman walking around, he probably owns that and he probably built it.
Yeah. And I would say if you are out there and we get the calls after people buy car washes, call somebody before you buy it. And just have them take a look at it and, give you the upside and the downside of it. Just even a 1,000-foot view could save you thousands of dollars.
Yeah, for sure.
Of mistakes. So,
What else you got?
I don't know. I mean, we did pretty well today. I think we have to thank Simon Eyes.
Simon Eyes, we thank you. We appreciate your support and believing in the podcast.
And our new website for the Kleen-Rite Radio is kleen-riteradio.com. Pretty easy to remember. All the podcasts, actually, you can watch on there or listen to, sorry. And the podcast has now been launched onto all the popular platforms. So
so you can check it out on Spotify,
iHeart, Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name them all because I don't know them all.
I don't know them all either. This is new to both of us, right? But if you want to watch it, you can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it on YouTube or all the other great platforms that are out there.
And when you listen next time, we have a special guest, which is our final episode of this series. And we're excited. We're not going to tell you what the summer series is about.
Oh, yeah.
But we are super excited about that.
Guys, definitely stay tuned. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And hit the like button to let us know that we're doing a good job.
Yeah, let us know if there's a topic that you want to hear or listen to. You can always call us. I think that we have reached a lot of people. We've been interacting with a lot of these people that have contacted us because of the webinar or an in-person seminar or the podcast. We've helped a few people. So it's been good for us. It's been good for them.
Yeah. I think it's been great all around.
Yeah, great.
So,
all right.
On that note, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later.